From the Fantasy Armchair, it is the Fantasy Tyrant. Hey there, fellow fantasy football freaks. It's me, the Ty Guy, the Fantasy Tyrant, here to help you once again get through this very crucial Week 13. This is the big week, the one that'll make or break whether or not you make the playoffs. Now, benches and bumps is coming up in just a minute, but before we get into that, remember, we got a goal this month. By Christmas, 200 subscribers. So take a look down there, and if it doesn't say 200 subscribers, hey, do me a favor, give me a bump, will ya? Oh yeah, and if we can get 10% likes, that would be good. So if you like the video, just click the little thumb there, Give me a little like there. If I'm at like 200 views, I need 20 likes. So, it's not hard math. 10%, that's all. So thank you very much. Thank you again for all your support. And remember, because you hit that goal last month, I'm doing my 2-hour live birthday show just for you this Sunday. That's 7:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. That's 8:30 p.m. in Nairobi. A big harabi to my freaks in Kenya. I'll be answering questions, knocking back beers, taking some shots maybe. Hey, it's going to be fun. We'll have all kinds of stuff going on. Heck, I don't even know what's going to happen. Who knows? You'll know, and so will your friends if you invite them here. So come with your burning questions that I can answer to help you make it through Week 13 and get into the playoffs. Oh yeah, and if you want exclusive access, the first in line for your questions being answered, hey, I started up a Patreon. Go ahead and check it out there in the description. There's a few different tiers. Hey, I do this for free. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. I even spend my own money on it, alright? So we want to ensure that this show continues. Help out a little bit. I'll use that money to spruce things up, get a bit of background, whatever. Whatever it takes to get the information to you to help you. Again, I appreciate all your support. There's some nice little incentives for those who donate. Check it out. Either way, I hope you come back to see me Sunday for my birthday show. But for right now, fuck all the business bullshit. Let's get into it. Benches and bumps, benches and bumps, benches and bumps. Now, before I get into the QBs, just a quick reminder about what this segment's about. See, benches and bumps is like a sit-start segment, only better. And the reason I say that is because, unlike other sit-start segments, I'm not going to tell you to start your studs, alright? Of course you know, start the guys that help you win. Duh. I know you're smart enough to know that. Now, if I think for some reason a stud's gonna bust, I'll let you know about it. No, not this time of year. This time of year, what you need is bold advice that's gonna help you get into the playoffs and beyond. So my bumps are more guys that you're questioning whether or not you start, not set them and forget them guys. Well, next week though, I'm starting a rating segment, so that way you'll know what I think about the guys in all tiers. Anyway, let's move on with the QB bumps, and my QB bump of this week is Kirk Cousins. This cat's been balling lately. He's only had 2 weeks where he didn't have 20 plus fantasy points since week 6, and he's scored 11 touchdowns and just 1 interception in the last 4 games. That's almost 3 touchdowns a game. You like that? And this week, he gets a Jags defense that made Baker Mayfield look like a competent quarterback last week. That's no small task. It's no surprise though, as the Pussycats of Jacksonville are the 3rd worst team when it comes to stopping the QB, giving up over 26 fantasy points per game to the position. Cousins may be throwing more with Cook banged up a little bit. Now, I'm not saying Cousins is going to put up a 30-burger. He could, but probably not. But I'm saying more like a 22 to 25 range, somewhere around there. But hey, that's good enough for top 10 QB production, right? So if that sounds good to you, go ahead and give Captain Kirk the bump this week. Other QBs I'm bumping this week, Taysom Hill has been the talk of the town in fantasy for the wrong reasons. But he's now exclusively a QB. That's okay with me because this week's matchup should be good for him. He put up 24 points just 2 weeks ago against Atlanta, and I've seen nothing that makes me think that Atlanta's going to do any better this week. So Taysom Hill could have another good day here. Give him the bump. Ryan Tannehill already borders on Studley, but this week he's got a juicy matchup against the Browns' porous secondary, who's given up over 24 fantasy points per game to QBs. Gotta give my love for Tannehill this week. I haven't always trusted him in the past, but he's legit. And in a plus matchup like he's got against the Browns, give Rye Guy a bump this week. As for sleepers, Baker Mayfield has been stepping up his play, and he gets a tasty-ass matchup against the Titans D, who's given up over 25 fantasy points to QBs this season. If you need a fill-in or a second QB in a Superflex league, give Baker a shot this week. And Trubisky played alright on his return from injury last week, and this week he gets a Lions D, still missing Trey Flowers and Jeff Okudah. This is the same Lions D that let Deshaun Watson go God mode on him.
I know Mitch is no Deshaun, but the Lions' pass D is non-existent without Okuda.
As for the QB I'm putting most on the pine this week, hey, last time I had Matt Ryan in this segment, he went off. But also, last time Matt Ryan faced the Saints, he took a fat-ass dump in your lineup. Matty Ice has made me look like a dumbass for the last time. This week, he gets that same Saints D that held him to 7 points just 2 weeks ago. Why you'd think anything would change after 2 weeks, especially with Julio being out or hurt, I have no idea. That's why you should leave Matt Ryan on your bench.
Other QBs I'm sitting, Matthew Stafford has had his ups and downs like a roller coaster from hell, or a teen relationship. This will be a down week for Matt Staff, so do the safe thing and don't start him. The Bears D has given up under 19 points per game to QBs, and Stafford isn't exactly matchup proof, unless you mean good matchup. Honestly, he's only really toyed with starter numbers here and there, and I don't see that happening this week, so leave Stafford on your bench. Hey, I know a lot of analysts got Derek Carr starting this week. That's because most analysts aren't paying attention and they look up the matchups without considering the players or the circumstances involved. Carr has far underperformed lately, even in gimme spots. And it seems, as per usual, Derek Carr has finally shit his drawers this season, as last week showed us. This looks like a good matchup, but I think it's a trap.
My running back bump of the week goes to David Montgomery. Can we finally trust him to be that borderline RB1 that we drafted him to be? Absolutely not. But this week, he's got a juicy-ass matchup against the Lions D. These guys are the worst at defending the run. They're giving up over 28 fantasy points per game to the position. Holy bejesus. This could be Monty's best game of the season, especially since Trubisky's under the helm again. Monty had over 20 fantasy points in Game 2, then Game 3, Trubisky gets injured. Since then, nothing. The next 20-point fantasy game came when Trubisky finally came back. See the connection there? This is no coincidence. The offense and David Montgomery himself run better when Trubisky is at the helm. Now, I know that's like saying a Pinto runs better with gas in it, sure. But I think it's enough of a difference to make Montgomery go from a low-end RB2 to a low-end RB1 this week. So give him the bump to your starting lineup.
Other running backs I'm bumping up, Wayne Gallman has been getting no respect despite being a solid RB2 for weeks now. I mean, I guess New York's offense as a whole has been hard to trust. But this football equivalent to Rodney Dangerfield has practically been the offense for the Giants as of late. He's been averaging well over 15 fantasy points per game over the past 5 games, and this week he gets to play on the fantasy playground in Seattle. Need I say more? Bump him up. Everyone was down on Jonathan Taylor, but I was telling everyone, just wait, he'll get his, and bam! But then he gets COVID listed. He didn't have it, so he's just fine, and the matchups from here on out are the best in the league. This week, he'll get Houston's third-ranked rush D. And don't worry about the other Colts backs. Hines will get his on passing downs, and Wilkins will be change of pace, but I see JT getting 20-plus total touches again this week. He'll be flirting with RB1 numbers, so give him a bump. Sleepers, you got it. Raheem Mostert is back, so you're starting him. #analysis. Alright, okay, fine. Yes, Jeff Wilson's there too, but that doesn't hurt Mostert's production. He put up an okay game in his first outing back from injury against a superb defense. I think Mostert reminds fantasy owners who he is and what he can do on Sunday, so you want him in your lineup. And Myles Gaskin should be returning this week, so don't forget about him. Before he got injured, he scored double-digit fantasy points in 6 out of 7 weeks. The guy is a solid RB2 with RB1 upside in good matchups like this week against the Bengals, so start him up.
On the other side of the coin, we got the running backs I'm benching this week, and my top bench at running back is Ezekiel Elliott. Yeah, I could go the easy route and say, oh, I think Todd Gurley's going to have a bad week, but his knees have been hurt. He's got other guys doing the work for him. Like I said, I'm not just trying to feel smart like the other guys. I'd rather actually help you than satiate my own ego. Sorry about that. All right, now where was I? Oh, yeah. So Zeke plays better when Andy Dalton's QBing rather than some rando jamoke. But even last week, he was held to under 40 total yards against Washington. And on Tuesday, he's going to face a Ravens D that ain't pushovers either. Now let's look real quick at Zeke's performances against top 10 running back defenses since Dak left the lineup. All right, let's take a look here. We got 6.1, 8.3, 8.9, and 2.9. Ugh, no thanks. And when you factor in that both starting tackles are missing from their O-line this week, oh, no. This is not good. It's not crazy. It's actually smart if you leave Zeke on your bench.
Other running backs I'm benching, Antonio Gibson broke out last week against the Fantasy Fiesta in Dallas, but this week he faces the Steelers' number 2 rush D, allowing under 14 fantasy points per game to running back squads this season, and even better in the last 3 games, only allowing 11 points per game to the position. If you want to know about the better backs they face, they kept Zeke to under 9 fantasy points and James Robinson to just over 11, so not great. Gibbs has been just okay or worse against top running back Ds this year, and this is his worst matchup of the season. I don't think he's quite matchup proof yet, so if you have other viable or better options this week, leave Gibson on your bench. Other analysts have Miles Sanders as a start, not I. Sure, the matchup looks good, but this is yet another trap, because until the Eagles move away from Carson Wentz at QB, that offense can't be trusted outside of the tight ends. Carson's cavalcade of crap will ensure that even against a bad Green Bay rush, Sanders will have a middling day at best. Listen, don't bench him for some jabroni, but if you have the depth to sit him in favor of other good backs with good matchups, whose QB's play doesn't render them useless, start them instead and put Sanders on your bench.
Now let's go to wide receiver, where my biggest bump this week goes to Justin Jefferson. Now Adam Thielen's back and he's going to demand some attention. But the Jags are so bad against wide receivers. I think both these guys could go off. In fact, they're giving up nearly 30 fantasy points per week to wide receiver cores. For those two, that's almost 15 points apiece. And his connection with Kirk Cousins lately has been on point. In PPR leagues, Jefferson is the number 12 wide receiver right now, and he's on one hell of a hot streak. Now I won't be talking about him on here again if he has another good week, because at that point, I'll consider him a stud. So maybe bump him up to your starting lineup this week and leave him there rest of season.
Other wide receivers I'm bumping up. Jarvis Landry finally had a good week last week, and while I don't chase fantasy points, it seems like he and Baker are finally on the same page. Landry's the top wide receiver for the Browns, and he's finally being treated like it. And that could very well happen again this week against the Titans, who are giving up over 25 fantasy points per week to wide receivers. And since Landry is practically the only show in town, he'll get the bulk of that production. He's finally worth what you drafted him to be, and he's got a great matchup, so give him a bump this week. Devontae Parker has his big bearded buddy back at the helm, so his production's about to take a step back up. Parker's point totals are leaps and bounds better with Fitzmagic tossing him the rock. Couple that with the matchup against the Bengals, who are giving up 27.5 fantasy points per week over the past 5 weeks. Give me that all day. Parker's been a top 10 wide receiver with Fitz throwing him, and I see that level of production coming through this week, so give Parker a big bump in this game. My sleeper picks at wideout this week, I like Pittman. He had an off week last week, but don't let that deter you from starting Rivers' favorite new toy. Texans D gives up about 25 fantasy points per week to wideouts, and Pittman should see a big chunk of that. Get him in at your flex if you can. And Sterling Shepard's the top guy in the Giants' offense, and with Colt McCoy starting, I see a lot of short passes to Shep, so in PPR especially, he's a start for me this week. Should be for you too.
Now the receiver I'm looking to bench the most is Marvin Jones. This guy hasn't done a goddamn motherfucking thing since he became the top guy after Golladay went down. And he's going to see plenty of Kendall Fuller this week, so I don't think that trend's going to book. His pathetic play will likely continue in this matchup. Chicago has the 5th best defense in the league when it comes to stopping wide receivers. And really, DJ Hawkinson's the only pass catcher in that offense that's worth a damn having, so you may as well keep Marvin Jones on your bench.
Other receivers I'm putting on the pine? CeeDee Lamb might not see many passes in this game because Andy Dalton will likely be QBing on his back all day. The Cowboys are missing both starting tackles, and the Ravens love to blitz the QB. That's not a good combo. CD will be hard-pressed for production in this game, so may as well play it safe and leave Lamb on your bench. Christian Kirk has a good rapport with Kyler Murray, but their production hasn't been up to par lately. Maybe Kyler's hitting the mobile QB wall. Even if he's not, this matchup is really bad for his pass catchers. Nuke will likely get the Ramsey shadow treatment, but Kirk may not fare any better. The Rams are the top team at defending against wideouts, allowing just under 17 fantasy points per game to receiver cores. Yikes. Couple that with him getting less attention and no touchdowns over the past few weeks, I'd say it's time to put Kirk on your bench.
And finally we come to tight ends, and my tight end bump of the week is Mike Gesicki. Yeah, he's been kind of an afterthought this season. I mean, we were all hyped about this guy being a top 10 tight end, But the reality is, he's been getting about as many looks as Pornhub in the Amish community. But he did well last week, and this week he's got a great matchup against the Bengals. Hey, unless your tight end is Kelsey, or Mandrews, or Waller the Baller, or Double H Hunter Henry, pretty much streaming tight ends is the best way to go. So if you're in a bind, turn to Gesicki, and that might pay off this week if you give him the bump to your starting lineup.
Other tight ends I'm giving a bump. It's December, so that means Rudolph the Red Zone Reindeer is ready to roll. Rudolph truly does his best work in December, and this week he's got the neutered Pussycats of Jacksonville, who gave up the second most points to tight ends per week. 4 catches, 45 yards, and a touchdown. Sound about right? Bump up Kyle Rudolph and let the Red Zone Reindeer do his thing. Jordan Reed is still Jordan Reed, and yeah, he's made of glass, but as long as he's starting, and he is this week, he is a touchdown threat. And while the Bills' D has been good this season, the chink in their armor seems to be against the tight end position, as they're giving up almost 10 points per game to tight ends this year. I think Reed sneaks into the end zone in this one, so give him a bump this week.
So which tight ends am I benching? Well, my top tight end I'm benching is Logan Thomas. I know he's finally been a solid tight end, so why am I benching him? Answer is simple. Matchup. Normally I'd push for him because Captain Checkdown Alex Smith loves his tight ends. The glory days of Vernon Davis. But this week things are different because this week they face the Pittsburgh Steelers and, you guessed it, they're number 1 against tight ends. They're allowing less than 4 fantasy points per week to tight ends. Fuck that! Keep Logan Thomas on your bench!
Other tight ends I'm benching. I think Jimmy Graham's time has come and gone. Trubisky will make that offense slightly better, but Jimmy has only 1 good game in his past 6 outings, including 1 goose egg. And this week, he faces a Lions D that has been stout against tight ends, surprisingly. Yeah, he scored in the first game against them, but without that TD, he only had 25 yards on 3 catches. On the year, the Lions allow less than 5 fantasy points a game to tight ends, so if a 5-point ceiling is what you're looking for, go for it. But otherwise, go with someone else and leave Jimmy on your bench. Break out the Admiral again because I see another trap. Jared Cook has a dream matchup against the Falcons this week. They give up the 3rd most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. So what's the problem? The problem is Jared Cook sucks. That's what. He sucks and he sucks and he sucks some more. I told you last time, I will never start this Beetlejuice look-alike ever again. Great matchups don't mean shit for this guy. And now, Taysom Hill's QB, and he thinks he has to play every position on the field like he's fucking Bugs Bunny or something. So no one else is getting fantasy points, and especially not Jared Cook. So leave the bum on your bench.
So that covers benches and bumps this week, but let's take a quick look at some defenses you should stream.
Buffalo's D has stepped it up throughout the season, and this week they get to feast on the fucked up 49ers. Seriously, watching my team's dilapidated offense go out and play makes me ill. Thank God our defense is so good, even with half the guys missing. Defense on the rise versus offense on the fall. Yeah, you know what to do. Go get them. The Raiders suck. Okay, now that that's out of the way, the Jets suck even more. So therefore, statistically speaking, the Raiders D should have a good game. I don't see a lot of scoring in this one, so if the defense pool is dried up in your league, the Raiders are a sneaky good play this week and will be viable for DFS as well. If you're desperate, start them up. I told you to start Seattle last week and y'all thought I was crazy. And I am. Crazy like a fox. They sucked all year, but right now they're in the middle of a defense-friendly slate. And the next stop is a home game against the Giants, who are already allowing top 10 fantasy points against opposing defenses. And that's before they started Colt McCoy. Yeah, go get him now before the other guy in your league that just heard that snags him.
Alright, you ready for some deep dives? Because I got 5 right here for you.
Jacobs is out and Booker is in. He could be in your league's waiver, so if you don't have him, go get him. And start him this week. Jacobs owners must be pissed, because this is a kick-ass matchup against the Jets, who are allowing nearly 20 fantasy points a game to running backs. It'll be a grinded-out game on the ground, played in the trenches. Booker will get his. Start him up this week. Jonnu is out against the worst team defending tight ends in fantasy, though Anthony Ferkser could serve to be an excellent fill-in. He could have another big day like he did against the Texans earlier this year, especially since the Browns are even worse against the position. He scored over 20 fantasy points in that game, and this game could yield close to those numbers. And if not, at least enough to make him a viable tight end this week. So, give him a shot. The ageless wonder Frank Gore is starting at running back for the Jets, and while that's like being the mayor of a nut house dining hall, He'll be good for low-end RB2 production at the very least. 10 to 15 points guaranteed with this guy. You could do worse than to employ the services of one Frank the Tank, so start Gore this week. Golden Tate is the slot receiver for the Giants. Colt McCoy likes to throw to the slot in the middle of the field. Seattle is particularly bad against slot receivers. You do the math. Could be a good flex play in deep leagues this week. And a very nice punt play for DFS. My double deep danger dive is not for the faint of heart. This is for people in super deep leagues. Maybe a little dynasty action, maybe a little DFS as well. But after losing Fuller, everyone's talking about the Texans' Kiki Cutie. Okay, I get it. But like I said earlier in the week, the Texans employed 3 wide receiver sets over half the time. And the replacement on the outside would be the 5th-round rookie who was touted as a standout in training camp, Isaiah Coulter. Cutie will do fine. We'll keep an eye on Coulter. Could be worth a stash if not a start for a DFS tournament play this week. Try him out.
So that's it, freaks. Another week of show's done, but wait a minute. We still got one more left. That's right. This Sunday, December 6th, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, 7:30 a.m. Pacific, is my 2-hour live show. I'll be on there answering your questions, having some breakfast beers. You never know who's going to show up or what might happen unless you're there. Now, like I said, I'll be answering all questions, but the priorities will go to my patrons, my super freaks, if you will, on Patreon. See that link in the description? Check it out. Become a member if you'd like. Hey, there's some pretty good deals on there if you become a member. Check it out. Also, real quick, if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button. We got to get that number above 200 by Christmas, and I'll have another something special for you. Also, 10% likes. If you like what you see, give me a little thumbs up there. That's all. Real quick, no big whoop. Every little bit helps. And I thank you all so much for all your support and everything. I'm glad that I can help you win your week this week because it's a big one. And together, we'll make it to the fantasy playoffs and beyond. So good luck this week. I'll see you Sunday at the birthday show. But until then, I'm out. Peace.